Mm. All right. So, Rob, you want to kick this off, man?
Oh, we already live?
We are.
Oh, we are
Oh,
live.
well, my bad.
Live.
What's good? HBCU single network or network family.
All right.
Boy Rob C coming at you.
Oh, we already live.
We are.
Oh, we are.
Can I keep going now? Or
Yeah, we have a little feedback. This all
okay.
good.
All right. Well, this is your boy Rob C coming to you live from unveiling his and hers truths. Brand new year, brand new season, and we got a brand new co-host. So we're gonna kick it off like this. I'm gonna introduce myself. I want to introduce the lovely Miss Francie, or excuse me, Dr. Francie Brown McClure. And then we want to introduce our new co-host, the wonderful, the marvelous, the young lady from Detroit who I can't stand, Miss Stacy Fogle.
We started like that.
You already know I got nothing but love for you, though.
Okay.
We appreciate you joining the crew. Last but not least, we got our boy drinking the good stuff tonight.
Yeah, the good malt liquor. I'm joking.
My brother,
I'm not going that hard tonight.
Come out, you double fisting already.
Nah. What up, though?
So tonight we're just gonna be having a conversation. It's a new year, new things going on in the group. So we're gonna let Kamal start us off, and we're gonna go from there.
Man, so it's I think we've been having some very interesting kind of back and forths with regard to preferences, and like if you're letting preferences kind of get in the way of having a productive romance, productive relationship, whatever you want to call it. I think, in my personal opinion, I think a lot of this is stemming from, I want to say, the newfound popularity of the polarizing Kevin Samuels, right? And now he kind of, Fran, don't give me that look now. Hey, I didn't say I agree with him or anything like that. Okay, I'm just saying, I think in a lot of his videos, he's, whether directly or indirectly, kind of tapped into how preferences, and this is how I see it. This is how I see it. Very objectively, he points out how preferences might be getting in the way of what you feel you deserve, right? And from, I think, like some of his videos and some of his conversations, and I think just random conversations, this has become a really polarizing topic, within the group. So I think it's good to have this discussion, without the peanut gallery, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more productive without slings and arrows and stones and bullets being thrown at each other. So yeah, and I don't even really know where to start with it. I think, excuse me, and I'm just kind of talking off the cuff here. I think men and women at various points in their journey in finding a significant other have let preferences kind of get in the way of really overlooking, well, not get in the way, but has, I think, made a lot of us overlook like a potential mate that might be more suitable for us, but because we have these preferences, or I think because we have certain people in our ear, saying certain things, we tend to overlook these people, and then we don't realize until it's too late, right? When reality slaps you in the face, right? That you kind of let a good one get away. I think us as men, this is my personal opinion, I think we do kind of unfairly kind of put that assumption on women, because we always talk about how women, particularly what do you call it, upwardly mobile women, having these lists that get in the way of them finding a suitable mate. But let's be real. I mean, I know a whole lot of 35, 45-year-old bachelors, right, that may not completely measure up to what they're looking for, right? So I don't know. Let's just start on that.
That's a quick question. Is there a difference between preferences and standards?
Hell yeah, there's a difference. Yeah, there's a total difference. I think the line gets blurred, right? But there's definitely a difference. I think your preferences change, as they should, as you get older, right? But your standards shouldn't. I don't want a toxic woman in my life. That's a standard. That's not a preference, right? I want a responsible, self-sufficient adult as a potential mate. That's not a preference. That's a standard. Now that, she can be 5'6", 120 pounds, or she can be 5'9" and 150 pounds. I don't give a shit. I already have a daughter. I'm not taking care of another child, right? So I think those are my standards. I think a lot of times your preferences get matched up in measurables, right? They've got to be this weight. They've got to be this height. They've got to make X amount of money. They have to have a certain level of education. So that's how I see it. I think your preferences a lot of times get wrapped up into these measurables, right? In what you want a person to meet. But standards, I mean, shit, man. I mean, yeah.
So what you're saying though, what I'm hearing is that the standards are more of the intrinsic, internal characteristics and ways of being, and that your preferences are more of the things that are external, that are the more stereotypical, the way we've been socialized to see beauty and to see what is attractive kind of characteristics, that mating piece, right? This whole idea that women want tall men because of this innate mating piece in us that we want to have and breed tall children or something like that, right? So that I'm hearing a bit of that, because the preference piece was not anything that was about who you are as a person, your character, your values, but more of these external physical characteristics.
Yes, doctor. Thank you so much for putting that so eloquently.
You're welcome.
I mean, but that's how I see it. And that's why I say your preferences change, right? I think what I wanted in my 20s, right, is much different than what I look for in my 40s. And I also think that after a certain point, your standards have to take over what your preferences are, right? But yes, to answer your question, yes, that's kind of how I see it. But I think after a certain point in your life, you have to stop letting your preferences drive how you find a particular mate. I mean, I would prefer to drive a Lexus 470, right? But my standards are something that gets me to work reliably and what gets me, helps me drop my daughter off to school reliably, right? Yeah, of course I would prefer it, but my standards meet a certain thing, and I kind of feel like the way that we kind of compartmentalize our preferences and our standards are kind of the same thing, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I just really want to dig into the whole preference piece, right? Because you talked about the group, and listen, work is real. And so I haven't been seeing a ton of stuff that's going on in the group, but I've seen some other pieces, right? And people seem to get real in their feelings when someone says what they want, right? And it then becomes an attack. if I say I'm only dating a man who's over 6 feet tall, then I'm a terrible person because I'm not giving someone a chance. Or if a man is on there and says that he only dates, petite, slim women, then it's a problem and he hates all women who are of size, right? And so, like, why do we give a shit though? Like,
Okay, so I'm going to say this.
Why do you care about who I am interested in and what moistens me? Why is that a consideration for folks?
Well, I'll say this, and I don't want to speak for all men, but I kind of feel like a lot of men feel this way, right? I date who the hell you want to date. I don't give a shit. What you eat don't make me shit. I don't really care. But I do feel that a lot of times, and I think this is where some of the basis of like the toxicness of these discussions come in. I feel like a lot of times men can't really put out there what their preferences are. I think a lot of times women have more latitude to discuss what their preferences are, right? However, as men, if we come out and say the same thing, then we're vilified, right? And I think this is where, and I don't want to take this, I really don't want to take this, this session into a completely different thing, because it's not a word of sexist thing, right? But I do feel like the frustration from, and not just men in this group, but I think men in general, right? This is where the frustration comes in. If I said that I prefer, like my preference is to date a light-skinned chick 10 years younger than me that's 5'4" and no more than a size 3. Best believe the knives are coming out and they're coming at my ass, right? Conversely, if a woman says that, hey, look, I just like to date, brothers that are over 6 feet, and, no disrespect to you short guys, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there for you, right? There's almost a pass. But if I said the same thing, yeah. So I do feel like there's I think there's a line drawn between like maybe how we communicate our preferences and
right.
I
think it's all about how you say it. You know what I mean? Like, if you tell me you only want to date women who are, under 5'3", light skin, and single digit, dress sizes, more power to you. But if you say that and then you're like, yeah, and this is what I like because anybody else is sloppy and don't take care of themselves, and you've then created a whole narrative, right, based on your preference and what you like, then I have an issue with what you're saying. Like whatever you want to like, but that doesn't mean that you then have to make assumptions or degrade anybody who isn't in your preference list. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where I can only speak for me, right? That's where I will take issue. I don't care who you like, because half the time, the people whose preferences are not me, I don't want you anyway, right? So it's not an issue. But the issue comes in when you feel a need to like try to take other people down to justify your preference. Like, no, just like what you like and don't bring anybody else into it.
That's
right.
Exactly. I'm going to say that that's exactly how I feel about the situation. And I see that happening sometimes in the group where, if somebody says their preference, there is always and this, there's always this crazy justification when all you got to do is just say, this is my preference and shut up. Like, what I'm saying? Nobody needs you to add this extra stuff to say why, or this person did something to you in the past, or, if you not this, then you garbage or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's automatically always going to bring out the knives that y'all are talking about and all this kind of stuff. And that goes on both sides. That's male and female. Say what your preference is, live in your preference, and going on about your business. Trying to pull somebody else down or saying like, oh, because dark-skinned girls aren't as pretty as light-skinned girls, or because short dudes can't put it down like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of this other stuff is just unnecessary. And so at the end of the day, nobody's trying to tell you that you can't prefer the things that you want. They're just saying don't talk about anybody else, and also sometimes be willing to look outside of your preference, because all of us in the singles lounge are single right now. So apparently, well, we're thinking, but apparently at the end of the day, hey, we've seen the stuff where the people talking something they not really single and they in here, so we say
single, right?
But
because you got married folks in the group too. But.
Right. So sometimes you might want to open up your preference list to be cool with possibly talking to somebody that does not fit that, because you never know. That person could turn out to be the love of your life. But if you are so like laser focused on this person has to be this skin complexion, this height, this weight, this, live here, do da, you could be missing out on something that's great only because you're not willing to step outside of your comfort zone or the things that you have liked in the past.
There's nothing wrong.
And I completely agree.
There's nothing wrong with communicating your preference. Like, it's okay to communicate that. I'm with Fran. It's how you communicate it, and then what you're saying behind the communication. You feel me? Like, if you tell me you don't like dating bigger dudes or chubby guys, I'm cool with that. That's fine. That's your preference. But then if you go on to say, like Fran said, you want to keep going on the road, well, you sloppy, you don't take care of yourself, woo. It's like, well, you know what? That doesn't mean that, but you know what I'm saying? It's cool. You already let me know what you feel. Move on. You know what I'm saying?
Why are you saying excuse me, man? We
I mean, because you know what I mean? That's just how I feel though. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you tell me your preference, that's cool. You don't like what I look like or how I come across or whatever. That's fine. But we don't have to degrade the person because I'm not your type or I'm not the person you thought I could be because of how I look or even how I act. But when the negativity gets into it, move the fuck on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't got the time to go back and forth when you already told me I'm not your type. Okay, that's cool.
It's unnecessary. I mean, I think another thing that like irritates me is you on every post, you talk about your preferences and your type and what you want. This is all you want, right? If that's the case, and I know full well I'm not any of those things, stay out of my inbox, right? Like, stay out of my inbox. If you want to proclaim all of the things that you were about and the things that you don't like, right? And I don't fit into that category, why are you in my inbox? Like, if you want to like something, like that publicly. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to sneak about nothing, right? And be like, oh, let me, on this. Nope. Own who you are and own what you like. You know what I'm saying? And again, people will step out of their comfort zones and people will step out and choose differently. But please do not get on the group or anywhere else and talk about how you don't like, like plus size women, or you don't like women with natural hair, or what, like you the loudest one in there, but steady in somebody's inbox, right? Like, come on now, don't do that. Don't do that. Let us be honest.
Stop capping.
And I think the thing that's really funny about it, and Stacey, I mean, you really highlighted this, and I wanted to jump in, but I wasn't going to let the Cabernet take over. A lot of times, and I think this goes back to like the original the topic. Like, I know people that use preferences to basically stay single, or use it as a justification to stay single. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I have preferences, but people who've known me long enough, I guess they've noticed like a certain pattern of who I date. But to be quite honest with you, some of the people that, for lack of a better term, turned me out did not fit into my preferences, right? And I still remember them to this day over some of the people that I've dated that friends and family think are my preferences, right? So, yeah, you have to look outside of that, and you never know. Like, you never know. Most of the people that I know who have gotten married, they end up getting married to somebody that, you know, that they didn't think that they would end up with, right? So, yeah, I think we gotta, you know, stop doing that. Again, as
What we got
maturing, I think preferences to a certain degree. Look, I still have my preferences. Okay, I don't hold on to them, right? But you know, I think at some point you have to step out of that, especially when you get to a certain point in your life, right? And try to understand where your standards need to start outweighing your preferences. I mean, does that make sense? Because I have definitely been in situations where I've dated people where my preferences outweighed my standards, right? And then, you know, when everything ended, I was like, wow, you know, I let my preferences kind of hide the fact that this was a trash human being, right? That didn't meet my standards, right? It happens with men. It happens with men. Women talk about it a lot too, but it definitely happens with men. I've definitely, you know, done that where because I was just indirectly focused on these preferences, it just really, you know, once the love leaves, the infatuation leaves, you're like, damn, you know, at the end of the day, from a standards perspective, this person didn't meet this. It's just because of like my physical preferences, right? I allowed myself to maybe take this person much too seriously than I should have, right? So I think that's what I'm saying in a roundabout way. I feel like at some point, especially as you get more mature, you have to understand where your standards have to outweigh your preferences. You can still hold on to like your preferences, right? But I'm not going to let my preferences allow me to overlook where they're not fitting in the standards category, if that makes sense.
So let me ask this question then, right? Based off of what you're saying. And I think this happens often, right? I think that people are trying to cover, right, for their own stuff. And I'm saying this because I used to deal with somebody like this, right? Like he had his own insecurities about himself and his preference or like what he was looking for and what he wanted to kind of walk out in public with was based on him trying to cover up his own insecurity and his feeling of inadequacy, right? Like I become a better man if this person who I feel like society deems as attractive or as a 10 is on my arm. And so I need to do that. So other men are going to think that I'm XYZ when I'm really not. And I'm like, yo, my boy, like you don't need to try to get a super attractive woman. You need to go to therapy and like heal yourself, right? Because a partner is not going to get rid of your own self-esteem issues or boost you in that way. Like that stuff's gonna fade at some point. And I think sometimes we do build our preferences solely based off of other people and clout and what like a deficiency that we're trying to fill in ourselves that we need to just work on and not try to get that from somebody else. And I'm gonna be quiet for a minute.
I think that comes.
No. I mean, but no, that's a good thing. I mean, that's a good point because I think men more so fall into that, right? And I'm just saying, I don't want to speak for all men, but I think men more so fall into that than women, right? Because like as men, we grow up with, you know, validating as men, we grow up with our validation coming in with who we date, right? More or less, right? And so I do think that is prevalent with men. I also think that it's not also just covering up insecurities, right? But like if you broke up with somebody that was in your, you know, I think that encompassed most of your preferences and a lot of your standards, right? And it didn't go your way, well, you want to prove that you can move on and find somebody better, right? Or sometimes with somebody that may weigh a little bit more heavily in your preferences, you know, category, just to show that you know, for the gram or whatever, that you've moved on and you moved on top. And I think that's another basis of like why people kind of tend to stick with let their preferences overlook like what they need. So I'm sorry, Rob, I talked over you, so my bad, man. Go ahead.
You're all right. I think though what Fran is saying, and I think I agree, I think people have societal preferences, meaning that they just want to look good for society or for their boys or for their girls or whoever they're around, because they feel that makes them look good. You know what I'm saying? Even though they're not all the way together themselves, wherever they're at in life. But if I have this trophy piece of a girlfriend or a trophy piece of a boyfriend that society accepts and thinks that, oh, they're the bomb, that makes me look good as well because they're on my shoulder or they're on my arm. But in essence, I'm still, like you say, Kamal, I'm not getting anything that I need on the inside because we're not connecting on that level. We don't have, most of the times, we don't even have, compatibility because we haven't even gotten to that point of finding out who we are, what makes us feel good, what we like and all that stuff, because we both are focused on that societal preference. Meaning, because we're together, we're out here on the gram, on Facebook, or just walking around, people seeing us together, that's going to give us more clout. And I think that's like a way of people dating these days. And it's sad. Like, people are dating or being with people just because they feel it makes their status look better. And it really doesn't.
Right. So let me ask y'all this. How much do you think social media affects like our preferences or how we are drawn more to our preferences and less to what our standards are?
I think you got to ask yourself, like, how much weight are you giving people who you might not even know? You know what I'm saying? To their thoughts to have in your life, right? Because you have some people, kind of like me, where you can go back through all my social media, you probably will not see a dude who was not my homie, right? You know what I'm saying? So I don't have every relationship out here. Do I want to get to the point where I can? Absolutely. Because I do have friends who are married and, put their mate on a pedestal on it. I think it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? But you have some other people who feel like they need that validation that's not coming from them, but coming from other people. And so therefore, every relationship, every trip, every step they take is going to be on social media. And, you have to ask yourself, like, how much do I really care about what these other people, who some of them don't even know me, like if you have like an open, type of profile, are going to come on and say, how much am I going to care if they come on and say something negative about the person that I'm with? And is that going to make me break up with this person? And then how much am I willing to change or adjust or quote unquote, kind of pull back or hide who I'm with because of all of these things that have happened? The other thing I kind of want to think about is sometimes, how are people getting to their preferences? Is it really their preferences or stuff that they've gone through that made them become to have this preference, right? So for instance, growing up, I got teased a lot as a dark-skinned girl. That doesn't mean that I automatically want a light-skinned guy now, you know what I'm saying? Because then if we had kids, then the kids that we like, and then, whatever. But you have some people who that might be the case, like depending on how they were brought up. If the people that were dark skinned were talked about worse than the people that were light skinned, happened in my family. Or if the people who were slim got all the attention, and then the people who were bigger didn't, and then whatever. So they're thinking of experiences that they had, and then that created their preference versus what they really like and really want from within. And I think that that's something that people have to think about too. Like, what is creating your preference versus being open to another people?
I think social media is a driver and an enabler of preference, but I agree with Stacey. It comes from like really your inner circle. Like sometimes it's like what did your parents say to you, or what did this person say, or your friends say while you were growing up? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's how it initially develops. And then as you go through life, it changes, like you say, Kamal, through your experiences and just stuff you have, you gone through yourself. I think initially it's through your childhood and initially through your parents or that inner circle that, from when you were born up to like maybe teenage years, that, was a start of preferences. And then when you got into like teenage years to college, young adult years, you start developing your own. But I think it still is influenced by your inner circle and your crowd, because you don't want to let them down, or you don't want to feel as such like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I brought home, and say, Stacey, don't take this the wrong way, I brought home a dark-skinned girl. Now my mom is going to not approve of her, or, whatever the case may be, because I know how my mom thinks or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's not the case, but I'm just using that as an example. I think it's definitely developed from childhood and what you went through, and it matures as you get older, but it still is affected by your inner circle. But it's up to you if you allow it to affect you.
Absolutely. And I can't even tell you how many times in college I let my inner circle talk me out of some ass. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be crass about that, but
she was right there, bro. She was right there. Your homeboy was like, man, she don't make the cut.
Yeah, it's like because of the crew you roll with, they were like, oh man, I mean, you're impressionable in college and undergrad. You're impressionable, but man, I talk with my homeboys about that all the time. There's some really good women I let my circle talk me out of because, they didn't make the cut. You know what I'm saying? And that's really unfortunate. As a self-sufficient adult, if you're still doing that shit, I think it's, that's something that you kind of have to look at. But again, I do feel like this is where social media still kind of drives that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But Rob, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you, because I did it. And then, you're looking at it 10 years later, and it's like, damn, she was actually okay. But I let my homeboys talk me out.
Hell yeah, bro. It's happened to many of us, especially dudes. Like, you would be talking to a young lady, y'all having a great vibe and things is going well. Your partner comes up, hey, this is my boy Kamal. Kamal, this is Stacey. How you doing? Whoop-de-woo. As you walk away, hey, why you talking to her? Like, for real, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, that's how that conversation starts. And then it makes you think like, well, dang, man, like if he thinks she's not all that, then maybe she ain't. It's just like that for me in college, I know that's how dudes were talking. That's how dudes got down. And it was just like,
meanwhile, your friend was pushing up and you just didn't realize it, but
exactly. But let's be real though. That's how that happened though. And
exactly.
And not to be like bluntly honest, but like, man, that's fucking immature, because you missed out on somebody that you could have probably spent the rest of your life with, because you already knew she was a good person, or better yet, could have dated and had a good time. But because you were listening to this asshole that was actually trying to get at her, but was talking you out of her, and then next thing you know, he gets with her. It's like, God damn, ain't this some shit?
But you know what, Rob? Actually, I think you have to give a little leeway to like undergrad, right? Like, from 18 to 23, 24, it's kind of expected. But I think the issue that I have is there's people 28, 29, 30 plus still letting their circle drive like
their preferences.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
Their preferences, right. There's people, especially with this, this new generation that is so wrapped up into social media. There are young adults that are like in their late 20s to early 30s that are letting Instagram stories drive their fucking preferences. You know what I mean? Like, just because, you know, this woman is posting like these videos of her mate on this Black Love Instagram site doesn't mean that this nigga ain't toxic as fuck. You know what I'm saying? It looks great for the gram. You know what I'm saying? Or just because this dude is grabbing this fine chick's ass like in the middle of a beach in Antigua, don't mean that she's not a toxic ass chick. You know what I'm saying? But I think you see so many. I'm
still trying to go to Antigua though.
Me too.
And you can have somebody grab your ass in Antigua and all that stuff.
For
but
sure.
Don't let it.
Y'all both can have somebody grab y'all asses in Antigua, but don't let nobody kick your preferences though.
Yeah, and I'm just
somebody can grab my ass in Atlanta.
On the ground anyway.
Well,
So,
damn.
But my point is, I do see people doing that, right? Like, you know, to get these likes on the gram, you know what I mean? And it's beautiful, but you don't know like what's under that. But I do feel like people, you know, men and women, you know, unfortunately, at an age that's way too old, let this shit drive their preferences and who they want to put out there on social media.
Just because it looks good doesn't mean it is good.
Exactly. A Ferrari looks good, but it's a trash car. It's so inefficient.
I mean, or even something that was good before, context matters, right? Like we continue to have, I'm going to take it a slightly different route.
Go ahead.
We continue to have these conversations about, like, you know, and today was Freaky Friday in the group about sexual prowess and, you know, people talking about all these, you know, requirements they have for length and girth and, you know, all of these.
Half of y'all don't even know the size of nothing. Let me shut up. Go ahead.
Which is true, because I will tell you right now, I have never pulled out a ruler. Okay?
That's what I'm saying.
Never.
Y'all talking about y'all want a 9-inch dick, but have you pulled out a ruler and measured this nigga's dick? I'm sorry.
Never pulled out a ruler. And y'all know I am.
Did y'all pull out a tape measure and measure the girth?
Hey man, if they unzip the zipper and that shit come out like a fruit roll up, that's
I can't do
man,
it.
you could be talking about I need a
queen
nigga with a
on the
9-inch dick
post.
and like 5-inch circumference, but the nigga that was piping you down had like 6 inches. You don't know?
You don't. But I will also, again, I've told y'all many a time on many a post, I love my walls and thank you for that. Right? Like in terms of come back, right? But no, listen, in terms of the context piece, right? Like you got to remember everybody is different, right? And so this random kind of preference about, you know, sexual prowess is really interesting because everybody's different, right? And we're talking about sexual prowess or you know, those pieces, but everything and everyone looks different, right? Like, you know, some man may be like, oh, I want a chick who's got, you know, a fat ass or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But if you want that for, you know, this, like, because you want to hit from the back, because the last girl you were with did all these amazing tricks, right? That next person who has one might not know what, it might just be there, but she might not be doing anything with that, right? Same thing with with your parts, right? You might have a whole big package and not necessarily.
But you don't know how to work it. You don't
know what to do with it, right? So you over here, you got your preference and you have your checklist in name only, right? But have no clue about what to do and are not actually getting your need met in any kind of way. But your box got checked, but your box, right, is not getting checked for, right? And I'm sorry. Listen, I don't ever need to check a box, but please check my box. You know what I mean? Like, so Okay, I'm gonna go back on mute again. But
So you want somebody to check your box, huh?
Listen.
Okay. You better let them know, friend. Hey, you ain't fucking around tonight, okay? I like that. Shit. She said, you better not hurt these walls. These walls gotta be intact.
Listen, I need them. I need my walls. Okay.
Stacy, go ahead and follow up.
Wait, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm co-signing the Sora. That's what I'm talking about. But y'all out. One thing I will say though is that you know, once you get into especially some of these, you know, sexual preferences, like for instance, he said the people was out here putting it, you know, in the group. The question I have would be, you know, are you willing to share your preferences to a person who might not actually do those at the time, and then work with them to provide you with what you need, right? So I might be somebody who needs extra practice. I don't know, riding upside down, standing on my, you know, on my hands. I mean, you know, I'm just saying, you know, there's all these things that people are saying that they want. They want somebody who can, you know, ride for 30 minutes. They want somebody who can, you know, give head for 45. They want somebody who can, you know, throw it in a
What?
circle.
Wait, who does that? This is a thing. This
I'm just
happens.
saying
They
that,
should
you
never
know,
give head
people
for
throw all
45. They
kind
should
of
give head
stuff
for
that they
44 or
want.
happens?
46.
The way my neck is, let me stop.
Hey, time out though, man. Let's be real though. All these folks that be having these sexual preference, we should ask this question: what the fuck are you bringing to the table? Because if you got all these damn preferences and you asking for all this shit, you better be damn and, you know, be able to do some shit. Like, that's all I'm saying.
You know, wait, Rob. So I'm glad you said that because I saw this meme and I was gonna post it for Freaky Friday, but I was like, look, I want my peace before tonight, so let me not post this. But it says something to the effect of women be wanting a guy to have sex with them for 2 hours but can't run for 15 minutes. But I mean, it's like.
First of all, there's a difference between running for 15 minutes and having sex for 2 hours. But
Hey,
stop.
you trying to tell me they can't get on the treadmill, my dude?
But look.
And I don't
It
need
goes
2
both
hours
ways.
either. I'm not
It
running
goes
for
both
15
ways.
minutes,
You
and
know
I
what I
don't
mean?
need 2
But
hours.
I'm not. Hey, look, I'm not gonna co-sign on the meme or anything like that. But it just when you talked about that, it made me think about that. Like, yeah, this is true. A lot of people have these preferences, but don't bring the same qualifications to the table, right? So yeah, I agree with you. Like, you know, everybody is getting out here talking about like what their preferences are and really what their standards are, but do you meet, you know, can you provide what you require? And I do feel like, honestly, this is why your boy Kevin Samuels be getting, you know, maybe he doesn't say it in the, you know, he says it with no chaser. I mean, I know people, you know, some people like to drink mixed drinks when, you know, really a straight shot of tequila or rum will get you there quicker, but he does point these out, right? So I think, you know, if you're going to have these preferences, well, look, fuck, you can have your preferences, whatever. But if you're going to shout it out to the world, what your preferences are, well, you damn well better be able to provide what you require.
Well, that goes back to my question of if people are willing, if that's what they want, and we've all said that we agree that people should get what they want or, you know, go after what they want. You know, just because that might not be what I do now doesn't mean that for the right person, it's something I can either learn or do later, especially when it comes to something that I can actually change, right? So I can't change my skin tone. I can't change my height at this point. I can't, you know what I'm saying? All these things. But if you say that you are a person who prefers, I don't know, bondage or something like that, you know, in sex, and that's not something that I've done, depending on how we are in our relationship, I might be willing to try it. This is hypothetical.
Yeah, you can always
I'm not
work on
laughing
that
at
end
you,
game.
Everybody said
Honey,
friend.
all
I'm
the
laughing at friend.
bondage folks are gonna be in your inbox, baby, talking about we could try it.
But I'm just saying, you
Be
know,
careful,
people have
Stacey. Be
their
careful, Stacey.
preferences, so you have to wonder, like, you know, how much of that is something that you could work with somebody on. If
Stacey in
they
her
don't
hands asking, how tight is that rope?
Oh my.
Get you a good swing.
How tight is the handcuffs gonna be?
Right, you know, I mean, so yeah, you have the right to ask those questions, but again, because you really care about this person or you really want to be with this person and you want to try something that they said that they prefer, you might be willing to ask those questions and then go about doing it versus you being completely written off because you don't already do it. And that's, I think, one of the things that when we're talking about preferences and standards, you know, somebody asked the question like, well, what's the difference? Well, we talked about that a little bit here, but at the end of the day, if my standard is I want somebody who's not going to put their hands on me in a negative way or I want somebody who goes, who is loyal, or I want someone who is, about their business, or I want somebody who's, family oriented. While those are purposes, those are also my standards. So regardless of what you look like from a physical standpoint, if you don't meet those standards, the other purposes, and for me, because I can only speak for me, kind of get overlooked. I don't care how fine you are. If you don't meet the standards that I have for the person that I want to be with, I'm gonna keep it moving, right? So
and those standards help make your preferences, or better yet, that person more appealing to where, let's say they have certain preferences that you're like, okay, this is kind of fucked up, but they meet your standards and y'all on a connection. I guarantee you, for the right person, you're willing to try some shit. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody gonna say no. You're gonna try some shit.
That's what I'm saying.
So in the spirit of Freaky Friday, I have to ask this.
Come on, bro.
Oh yeah, friends.
Come on.
I'm going there. Now, I have to ask this for the ladies. At what point do your sexual preferences outweigh like other preferences? Like
they never do for me.
They never do. I'm not talking about standards. I'm talking about preferences, right? Like you may prefer a guy that's 6 feet with six-pack abs, right? And you're also dating a guy who's like 5'10", maybe a little pudgy, but this 5'10" pudgy nigga's fucking shit out of you, while you don't have this kind of chemistry with this guy that fits, this 6'4", washboard ab, whatever. Like, at what point do the sexual preferences take over the physical preferences? Because
that 5'10" nigga is winning, bro. I don't care what you say.
Say what? That 5'10" nigga is what?
Is winning. I don't care what you say. If he's fucking the shit out of her,
I mean,
he's winning.
I can't answer that. You know what I'm saying? Because look, I'm gonna say this as a guy. I know a lot of niggas that will, they'll date like this Instagram model type, and maybe they'll date like an average chick, but the average chick is rocking their world, but they'll still fuck with this Instagram model because it looked good with him on the gram. I know niggas like that. So I don't know if that same thing crosses over with the women. So I have to ask the women, at what point does that take over?
I'm always concerned with my needs being met, right? And at 37, that is a need, right?
He's fucking the shit out of her.
It's a need. And
told you, Kamal. I told you. The pudgy niggas.
I know. I mean, look.
Concerned with my needs being met, right? Like I don't need to have arm candy or eye candy or whatever. Like I'm also at a place in my life where I'm not concerned with if my friends find my partner attractive or if social media finds my partner attractive. I'm really okay if I'm the only person who finds them attractive, because then, there's.
But as long as it's making you bust it wide open,
kind of push up on them. I don't have time.
As long as he's not tearing the walls up, but he's keeping them intact.
As long as he's not tearing the walls up, but you got you busting it wide open.
Yeah. There's art.
All that nigga's dick game is right with Fran. She good, bro.
There's an art to this. So needs met, right? Like needs met is the barometer for me. Are you meeting my needs in whatever that particular need is? That's great. I don't necessarily care about the other things if the need is being met. Mm-hmm. But I will also say, right, that the sexual need is not at the top of the needs list.
Right.
It is there though. Okay. But
I'm just saying, like, all things being considered, if the standards are the same, right? They're both bringing what's required as far as standards, but from like, superficial metrics, one man is providing that, one man isn't. However, this other man got you busting it wide open. Like, the
pudgy nigga is winning.
Yes, because ultimately, right? I'm also at a phase of my life where I'm like, give me the dad bod, thank you.
Told you.
But Like, and I'm not even talking about the whole bus. Like, that's just a preference. I'm like, I'm in dad bottom. I don't listen.
Stacy, you want the
Okay.
abs or you want the
Stacey,
dick?
yeah.
You want the abs or you want the pudgy dick?
I'm going to agree with Francie and say, you know,
I'm just
at the end of
asking
the
a
day,
question.
it's about the needs being met, right? So, and I'm 40, right? So around this time, this is why we know why Stella went and got her groove back, okay?
Come on.
Because the older women get, our sex drive go through the roof. And if you as a dude can't hang with that, you normally are going to get left behind because y'all kind of peak in y'all 20s and shit, maybe early 30s. Whereas
Wait a
we
minute.
start,
What?
I'm just
We
trying to
peak
say,
when?
your 20s
Speak for
and
them
early
other
30s.
niggas, but go ahead.
Early.
Right. Who's she talking about?
Okay, not
Yeah,
you,
speak
but
for them other
you know
niggas.
what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, like our shit goes into overdrive. So I need you to be able to bring that. So if you the 6-foot dude with the nice abs or whatever, you beautiful to look at, but you not hitting on nothing and you not bringing nothing. And I agree that it's not automatically at the top of my needs list, but it is a need at 40. Okay. You know, then I'm automatically, to answer your question, Rob, gonna go with the 5'10" punching dude who's pushing.
What did I tell you? Come on, 2 for 2.
Because
I mean,
at the end of the day, I mean, he's meeting a need that the other person is not meeting. So there's no point in being with somebody who you think is fine if, you know, behind closed doors, you know, agitated as fuck with this dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you're not doing what I need you to do.
Hey,
And
man,
so what's
come
the point?
on. The new slogan is that you can be a butter ball if you hitting them walls, my nigga.
Don't put that on
Or-
nobody's t-shirt.
Please don't.
Do not put that on a t-shirt.
Don't meet the metric, bring the dick.
Right.
I don't know.
What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
If you don't meet the metric, at least meet
But
the
see,
dick.
here's a
I
good
don't know.
point, though. But come on, go back to your point. That's a good point between men and women. What they said
Right.
was if their need is being met. What you're saying is, if you look at it, in which I agree with you, we tend to be more superficial on the outside. Meaning,
As
like,
fuck.
for
And that's
some reason,
why-
it has to
that's
be
why-
like, this has to look a certain way. She got to have that ass. She got to look thick. She got to be where. For some reason, that's just how society is. And when it comes to especially social media, like these IG models, they all fucking look the same. They all fucking, you know what I'm saying, have that skinny waist, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But that's how it is when it comes to a man for some reason. Like, that's appealing. That's who I know if I was on my arm, my dudes are going to be like, yeah, I got me a piece, like that trophy for, you know, quote unquote. Whereas what the women are saying is, yo, I just need my needs to be met. There's a difference, bro.
Well, and here, and I'll take it a little bit deeper, right? Look, man, how many niggas you know got a beautiful wife, but they got this side chick where you're like, whoa, you cheating on this with that? But it's because this other one is meeting the other needs, but his public piece meets the standards of social media. You don't really see women doing that too much, a whole lot, right? Because I think it's just innate. Well, fuck it. I'm not going to speak for women. I know about these dog ass niggas in my family, and I know how they operate. And like, they will have like a nice looking woman on their arm, but when you look at these women that they got whole other families with, you're just like, wow. Okay, but it was because as you get older, you understand it's because they probably met a need, right? So I do think it's the reason why maybe it's more accepted with, or is more prevalent with men, is because, and y'all may fricassee me on this one, I don't care, it's almost more accepted for men to have a wife and a mistress.
Not if you want to stay with Stacey, but okay. But let me flip.
But
are y'all gonna do that same thing? Are you gonna go with the one?
No, I'm not doing it. But I'm just saying, like, look, I have generations of uncles. My grandfather was like this. Like, I mean, people who have like a Caribbean background can probably speak to this because it's very prevalent with Jamaicans and Trinidadians and like it's prevalent. Like it just is. And I mean, and I have enough friends from Latin America it's still prevalent today, right? The wife serves one need, the mistress serves another need, right? So I think to your point, Rob, the reason why it's so prevalent with men is because even if that man, I'm gonna go there. Look at Andrew Gilliam. Oh yeah.
Now, for the record, we went in the family together. I kind of know him and his wife, so
I don't give a damn. He had his wife for a purpose, and he had them niggas for another purpose. Okay, so look, I just think it's. I'm sorry, Stacey. I know. But I mean, if I'm going to pick like an example, right, that kind of basically proves my point, right? it's Rod, stop it. If you're gonna talk that shit, you need to get on this live, man. But it's just more accepted for men to have someone on their arm, right? And then someone in the bed.
So I will say from the YouTube, somebody made a good point. Shout out, man. Why choose? Why not get the person, he mentioned the 6-footer that's also putting it down. Yeah, I think a person, if that's what their preference is, they would absolutely want that. But in the scenario we were given, that was not an option, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, everybody wants their preference that does the things that they want them to do, and they, skip along and live happily ever after. I think that's everybody's kind of perfect world scenario. The question is whether or not that's something that we're going to get, something we're going to meet, and are we going to totally step over somebody who does not fit the initial preference that could be treating us like kings and queens, to try and wait to see whether or not we're going to get this other one, and then that also brings to the point something that you were talking about, Mal, which is you got the one on your arm and the one on the side. At what point do you stop looking for the next? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you happy with what you got right then, you might not have even thought about this person that's over here that you now got to have on the side, because you shouldn't have been looking for them if you were actually happy where you were. So at what point do you stop looking to replace whoever you have, or looking for somebody else?
Stacey, can I interject real quick? I don't think it's when it comes to men, and I'm being honest, I can speak from a place where I've never cheated on a woman, but if my needs are not being met and somebody else is meeting that need, it's easy to gravitate to that person.
But are you giving up the 80 for the 20? Are they only meeting the need that you feel like you're not getting at the time? Or should you just stop with this person because they're not meeting your needs at all? You got some people who will give up the 80 for the 20 because that's the one thing that's not being met.
That's a good point. But what I'm saying is this, and I'm saying it in a sense of, I can see where Kamal is coming from. Where when a man, whether it's marriage or let's say even in a relationship, right? If they have a woman that meets all the societal measures of like a good mate, a man tends to keep that woman no matter what, no matter if it's good or bad, how ugly it is. They keep that person no matter what because of either their status or they feel that it helps their status. That's just how some men think. I'm just putting it out there.
Right.
However, this man might be on a business trip, or he might be out with his dudes, or whatever the case may be, and meets another woman, or a woman comes up to them and they just start talking, and the vibe is totally different. It's authentic. Somehow it just goes, they get the exchange numbers or whatever the case may be. It might not be that man is looking for something different. It just might have happened by chance that woman at that particular moment in time gave him something that he needed in that particular moment in time. And then somehow it builds from that moment in time into something more. Was he initially looking for that? No, it just happens. And when it just happens, do we enable it to happen? Yeah, we do. Why? Because we're looking for something that we're not getting for somebody that we already are with. Now, should we cut that shit off? Yes, Stacey. Obviously, that's common sense. But it does not happen because, number one, some of us are just greedy. We want to have our cake and eat it too, or, dinner and cake and eat it too. But secondly, and I do agree with Come on this, and I have seen this in multiple occasions, depending on their stature and what their status is, they keep that woman there because, number one, it makes them look good. She's 9 times out of 10 understanding what's going on, and she probably already knows his dirt. And she probably is like, you know what? Fuck it. As long as you taking care of what I need to take care of here, fuck, do what you do. I don't give a shit.
Well, let's also be clear in those situations, and I know we won't, get too far off topic here, but let's be clear in those situations. Most of those women also have their needs being met elsewhere.
Exactly. Most definitely.
For a preference piece, there's a status piece that is tagged along to that as well. Oh, you want me for clout and status? Cool. I want you so I don't have to work again, or so my student loans are going to be paid off, or so I can travel or get these things that I need for my children.
Absolutely correct.
But again, my emotional needs will be met somewhere else.
Yep.
By someone else, right? So I do want us to just own that it can show up and it can happen, both ways, which ultimately goes back to, I think, the question that came through that Stacey said about like why are we not trying to kind of find like the whole thing that we are looking for in some way instead of trying to piecemeal things together.
Well, because I think sometimes this is a case of where your standards outweigh your preferences, right? I mean, and this is and once your standards start to outweigh your preferences, then I think this is where you start looking like elsewhere. But to Stacey's point, like, look, like you can try to do both, but like 9 times out of 10, if you're trying to do both, I mean, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. Are you going to waste your fucking time trying to find a unicorn? Right? I mean, that's like getting a jackpot if you find that unicorn, right? So why continue to limit yourself, especially if you're not offering the same shit that you're looking for in a mate? Why would you try to limit yourself trying to find this unicorn when, look, let's do a cost-benefit analysis. What am I offering, right? Based off of what I'm offering, what's going to meet my standards and what's going to meet my preferences, right? So I don't know. You can try to look for that shit, but that's like, I don't know, shit, trying to beat Vegas to get, to try to win. I mean, why hold on to that? I mean, and the more you hold on to it, I mean, shit, I don't know. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying you have to settle, but you got to be realistic, right? Like, look, I would love to have a woman that meets all of my preferences and all of my standards, but let's get it perfectly fucking clear. I'm over 40. I'm not a millionaire, okay? That shit's not going to happen. So why would I keep trying to look for somebody that's going to meet all of my preferences and all of my standards when, look, hey, if they're meeting the majority of my standards and a good portion of my preferences, let's just roll with that.
That's my point, Kamal.
And that's why you're not looking for both.
That's my point, though. So if you got that, right? So it's just scenario. So if you're like, this person meets most of what I want or whatever, and I know Rob said sometimes it just happens, but you got some people who will keep looking, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just said that usually you should probably not keep trying to search for this unicorn, But if a person is getting 95% of what they want from both things and missing that 5%, and you know what I'm saying, and so therefore they're not rolling with it at that point. They keep
First of all,
looking.
95% is too high. 95% is too high.
80.
95% is too high.
8. Let's just say
98? Nah, come on, that's too low. I'm talking about like, come on, we're looking at sea level, 70%. 70%. Let's keep it real now. 70%. Come on, Stacey.
I think you
Come
could
on.
get 80.
Come
I
on.
think you could get 80, 80. But okay, we'll go with your 70. But either way, like
Okay,
for
B
what
minus.
you were saying,
B minus. 8.
so what you're saying though is if a person meets all of these things and then therefore they're like, okay, yeah, let's roll with this because it's great. You know, we have this, we have this, we have this. And you know, Ava mentioned in the group, good sex can be taught. Okay, so if something's not going right, you can do whatever. At the end of the day, though, if all of these things you saying you're gonna roll with it, you keep looking for the person who might give you a percentage up.
It depends on where you're at in life. Me, my threshold, hey, you give me a cool C plus, B minus across the board, I don't really need to say, look, because again, I know where I'm at in life. I know what I offer, right? If you can give me a good C plus, B minus across the board from what I'm looking for, why do I need to keep looking?
Exactly.
That was my question. What is the purpose of continuing to?
But there's motherfuckers out here that want a B plus, A minus. Nigga, I mean,
Which is nothing wrong with that, but at what is the cutoff? I'm just
be
asking.
clear.
What is
I don't know about
like,
y'all,
nigga,
but
if you,
I don't want to be considered a C.
a 94 to test, don't expect an A plus.
I'm
You
not
know
a
what
C
I'm
plus
saying?
though.
Like, come on.
I'm definitely not a C fucking plus.
I don't want to be considered anybody's C plus, right? Like I'm a pink starburst. I want to be.
Oh shit. That's a universe.
But look,
Fuck.
friend, I get that. I understand that.
Lord, man. She's
But
out here
again,
like, God dang.
I didn't
Like,
necessarily
look,
say I
no,
need
no,
to be your A plus plus, but I don't think anybody wants to feel like this is my partner and I'm their
Well,
C.
let's rephrase
Yeah, not
this. Let me rephrase this because I think we're hung up on Kamal's grading system. So let's say this: if a woman is meeting majority of a man's standard, where I'm at right now in life, Stacey, if you're meeting majority or if not all the standards, fuck my preferences, because at that point I can work with that woman because she's meeting what I need, which is my standards. You know what I'm saying? And whatever that case may be, I might even develop new preferences because of that woman. Mm-hmm. So to me, exactly. I don't have to look outside. If you're meeting majority, I'm not giving a grade, so I said majority of my standards. And the reason why I say that is this: at 41 years old, I don't got time to play no games, and I don't have no time for a woman to play games with me either.
Amen.
So at this point, if you and I are talking, I'm gonna let you know up front, I'm dating with a purpose. I'm dating to see where this can go. If I'm out there putting myself out there, I'm letting you know up front, this is what I'm seeking and this is what I'm looking for. If you are meeting majority of my standards, we're going to see where this can go. Plain and simple.
Damn.
I don't have to look anywhere.
And that's all I'm saying. I mean, don't get caught up in my grading system. I mean, shit. Harvard's grading system is harder than fucking
Starburst.
Open like a tight. I don't know. But my point being is, like, look, man, it's about being realistic about what you bring to the table, right? I know where I'm at in my life. You know what I mean? I don't want to be alone forever, okay? So certain things that were important to me, I'm not even going back to my 20s, in my 30s. They just ain't that important right now, right? So I feel like across the board, if I can get a solid B, Fran, I know you're overachiever, right? I don't need a B plus. Just give me the B. Just give me the B, borderline C plus. You know what I mean? And we can rock. Because I don't have time for all that other shit. You know, I mean, yeah, it'd be great to find an Instagram-looking chick with a fucking, I don't know, top-notch education that's well-traveled, blah, 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 blah. I mean, come on, man. Let's be fucking real. Like, understand where you're at. Understand what's important, right? And you have to know like where your standards need to start outweighing your preferences. Don't look for that fucking middle line, right? I mean, at some point you gotta weight that shit different, man. You just gotta weight it. I mean, and that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So Stacy and Fran, let's ask this question to you as women. Where you guys at in life? If a man
No. Her name's not Fran. Her name is Kate Starburst. Right? Kate Starburst. Let's get that. Let's get that correct. Kate Starburst.
My bad. The unicorn of the group. If the man is meeting majority of your standards, where y'all at?
Oh, I'm good. Like that's what matters to me at this point in time in my life. That is what matters. That's what matters. That's all I'm concerned with. Like
I would agree with that.
That other stuff can come and go, right? But like who you are at your core, what your values are, what you bring in terms of how you make me feel and how you treat me as a person, how you treat my child, right? Like those are the things that are non-negotiable and intangible for me. And so that will always win, and that will always, keep me there. Because yeah, there was a a statement that I have heard before that dick comes a dime a dozen and I have $1, right? So I'm not worried about that.
But does
Wait a minute,
good dick
that's some shit.
Does good dick come a dime a dozen? Good dick, does that come a dime a dozen?
Period.
Hell no.
This dick comes a dime a dozen. And right?
Meaning you can find she got $1, bro.
You can find it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like there is a dearth of that. Like, right, you can get it. But what you
good dick or just dick?
You say good dick or just dick? Period.
Just dick. Let's quantify
right.
this.
For some people it doesn't matter, because again, to our earlier conversation, you can teach someone you can get someone where you need them to be if they are open.
Fran, you 37. You try to teach a nigga. You teach kids all day. You
Listen
really try
to me.
teach one nigga.
I will if that man is doing all those other things, because what I can't teach you to do is how to lead. I can't teach you how to be a father. I can't teach you how to pray for yourself and pray for me. I can't teach you how to cover me, right? I can't teach you how to be a man.
I'm preaching right now, bro. You better watch out.
I mean, no.
I'm how to please me, but I can't teach you how to do those other things.
Okay, so if you can teach him how to do all that, but you can't teach him how to hit that spot, then you still on rock with him?
But what I'm saying is I can
yes or no? Huh?
I'm saying I cannot teach a man how to do those other things. I can teach you how to please me, right? Through conversation. Now,
what if he's not learning? What if he's not learning?
If you're not open to it, that's a different situation, right? But that means you're inflexible, you're not listening, and you don't want to engage, right? Because part of what we miss in all of this too is a lot of what is lost in our physical interactions is that we're actually not concerned about the other person. We're concerned about ourselves. And so when you are solely worried about yourself and getting your needs met, you are always going to miss the mark. So if that is the case, again, that goes back to a standard. You're not meeting a standard at that point, because I need my partner to be concerned about my well-being in the way that I am concerned about theirs.
Got you. The sexual well-being.
All of it.
Okay. All right.
I mean, for me, I'm also, I'm intentional. You know what I'm saying? I'm dating with a purpose. So if I do meet somebody who is meeting the majority of what I need, and I feel like the things that are not being met is something that could be worked on or, adjusted in the future, then yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's rock. And I admit that everybody dates differently, right? You have some people who date multiples, you have some people who date one at a time, you have some people who prefer, like, I don't want to talk to nobody, I'm just gonna be friends with everybody. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm learning that you kind of have to start dealing with people who are doing the same thing that you do to keep the confusion down, right? You know, and so it's just like, all right, if if the case is that we both are people who date multiples, then that's what we do. We understand this go. We are people who date one at a time, and then to Rob, what you said, like they meet your needs. What are you gonna do? We gonna rock, and go with that. You sometimes have an issue. You got people with different perceptions of how they see the dating thing that might not mesh well. Because if you got one person who's a one dater and one person who's a 4-person dater, that's not gonna go well, especially for the person who's a one dater, right? So I think it's just about trying to match up. Not to say that people can't want what they want, like what they like, prefer what they prefer. It's just about trying to find the lid for your pocket. And then once you do that, do you stick with that lid or decide, let me go see if there's another lid that fits my pocket? That was the only question that I was asking.
Okay.
I think
You gonna answer that one?
I just think honestly, or us four agree, if someone's majority meeting our standards, they're getting our full attention, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And from there,
right,
what happens? You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I'm gonna be honest, man. Looking outside and trying to handle multiple people, that's a lot of time, and I don't got that. I just don't. So I'd rather just stick with the one, focus on that, and let's see what happens. So,
but we've grown, and I think we understand what we bring to the table and what's out there and what's important. I'm with you. Dating multiple people is a fucking headache. Like,
right.
I mean, like that guy that got caught on Instagram with like 2 wives, 3 fiancés, and fucking 15 girlfriends, nigga, you can have that shit. Nah, fuck that. No. You can have that shit, man. Like, where you find the time for that, right? Yeah, but I think it takes a certain level of maturity to understand, like, what your threshold is. So, yeah. Right, you can't be posting this stuff, man, if you're not going to jump on.
That's messed up.
Oh, my God.
That's messed up, though.
Okay.
But I think
if
we circle back to the question of what the topic was supposed to be is, are your preferences holding you back? I think we kind of have to ask ourselves, is it holding us back? Like if we're all still in this singles line group, because we quote unquote single, then are the preferences not working for us? Are the preferences that we have, we just keep running into the same thing over and over and not willing to change? Are the preferences that we have said just never going to be met? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a bunch of questions in there, and then at the end of the day, you're just like, at what point do I open my preferences up to something else?
Well, to me, I don't think the preferences is holding people back. I think, honestly, man, there's 2 things that are happening there why people are single. Excuse me. Number one, most likely their standards are not being met. You feel what I'm saying? And if the standards not being met, you're gonna stay single until you find somebody that meets your standards and that you connect with. But here's the fucked up part, and a lot of people are not willing to admit this. Some people still don't know what they are seeking and needing in a mate and in a relationship.
Right.
And so that's another reason why people are single, because they haven't been honest with themselves to say, you know what do I really need and who do I really need in my life at this point and forevermore. And until people are honest about that, they're going to stay single, because you can't find happiness in somebody and think they're going to bring you that happiness. And then when they do something to make you upset or do something to make you feel like a certain way and you don't know how to handle it, then you join on to the next person until, you find whatever that is you're seeking and looking for. So I think those are the 2 main reasons why people are single. I don't think preferences actually get in the way. I think they're a distraction, but I think it's because the standards are not being met, and then honestly, people are not honest in what they're seeking and looking for.
I am going to disagree to a certain degree. I agree with, like, 90% of what you said, right? And me personally, and I was talking to my barber about this earlier, right? I can't talk about Generation X, and I can't talk about the generation before us, right? But I feel like with the prevalence of social media and everybody trying to create brands and all this shit, it's creating this whole new generation of narcissists that you think that you are owed something. Just because you got 20,000 followers doesn't mean you're owed a fucking thing, okay? And I think this is where I think like maybe generations behind us, right? And that's why I keep pointing to the people who are 20, like between like 29 and like 34, right? Or 28 and 34, right? Everybody's getting wrapped up in their brands and posting all this shit on social media. Like, yo, I meet these metrics. I got all these degrees. You ain't owed a fucking thing, right? You're not owed shit. And I think people think that because they're meeting certain metrics that they're owed these unicorns. They're owed their preferences, right? And not their standards. And that's what's holding them back. I think, and this is the 90% that I agree with you on, Rob, it takes a certain level of maturity to understand at what point should your standards outweigh your preferences. I say maturity, not age, because I know niggas that's 50 that still let their preferences outweigh what should be important to them, right? I think it takes a certain level of maturity to understand, like, yo, okay, I don't need so-and-so to look like this, and this, that, and the third, right? As long as they're meeting this, that's fine. I still think that there's too many of us that let our preferences keep us out of successful relationships. A lot of us. And I just see it too much. And like I said, man, I don't mean to pick on like generations behind me, but I see this shit so much, man. It's like this narcissism shit is like at its peak right now. You ain't owed shit. You ain't owed a motherfucking thing. Just because you meet like these metrics that you think you're supposed to meet doesn't mean that shit is you deserve anything, right? You don't deserve shit. Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel. I'm sorry.
I don't.
The cab is taking over, by the way. So I just want to let. I'm giving you a warning right now.
We can tell. We only got 4 minutes left, but we can tell. Ladies, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it.
I appreciate the conversation, right? And we'll see. What happens. People are always going to have their preferences. People will always have standards. I think it's about, again, how we communicate with each other about those things, how we, really learn to accept ourselves and to be true to ourselves and true to our wants and needs, and to be okay with that, right? And to continue to live for ourselves and not for other people in every facet of our life, right? Not just this one. And really being able to kind of own your truth and who or whatever that truth may be for you. But ultimately, it really is about that end goal. And if, not everybody in the lounge is looking to be partnered, but if that is if that truly is your goal, right, then I wish you the best at it in whatever it is that you want, and sincerely hope that you find it. And in the midst of it, that you don't ruin too many other people trying to get there.
Stacey, you'll have the last word for this question, and we'll wrap it up.
I mean, everybody kind of said the stuff that I was gonna say, but the only other thing I would add is, I've had some good experiences by going outside of my preferences, right?
Right.
And so I would hope that other people would understand that, there's nothing wrong with trying something new. There's nothing to lose by doing something different. And that at the end of the day, who's for you and what's for you is going to be for you. So yeah, we may get hurt along the way. Things may not go the way that we want them to go, whatever the case may be. But as long as you are mature enough to, kind of deal with those emotions, handle it and move on. And then at the end of the day, also be willing to continue down the path and not revert back to, oh, well, I tried that one time, it didn't work. And, now it's, forever gone. But just know that there could be somebody out there that you're not seeing just because you're only looking in a certain part of the store, and I'm just using that as a, an analogy, but you could be looking in housewares and the person for you is in hardware. You got to be willing to step outside of, your box to go and find that pot.
With that being said, we want to appreciate y'all out there in YouTube land live that was able to join us tonight for the new premiere of Unveiling His and Her Truths. This is the new lineup, y'all. Every fourth Friday, y'all gonna see us.
I think it's gonna be Friday.
Fourth Friday. The last Friday.
We gonna. Hey, Fran, how is she gonna do
Big
it?
Starburst is like, wait now.
Come on,
she can do it.
This
It's
might be one of the best
Friday.
ones we have because
She got
everybody's
it.
drinking.
Yeah, she got it. She can do this on Freaky Friday. She good. You know what I mean? She
And
good.
you know what? We need to lobby for this. Every Freaky Friday, we have this. So
That's the last Friday of each month, bro. So that's what I'm saying.
Ava, Rob, Bill, whoever, this is what we're lobbying for right now. Y'all can talk about this shit in a happy hour and make a decision, but I think this is the best shit right here. And just for the record, I love talking to Fran while she's been drinking. Like, when she's not drinking, I really do feel like I'm talking to my college dean. When she's been drinking, it's like, Fran, oh shit. Thank you,
That,
Dr.
folks,
Fran.
is the wine sinking into Kamal. So we gonna, on that note, we're gonna say
kombucha.
Okay.
And Coke 45.
No, and make sure y'all go to Bill's happy hour at 10.
That's right.
Exactly.
Happy hour tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, like Kamal said, we lobbying for every fourth Friday. That's Freaky Friday. We're going to start it up before the Freaky Friday happy hour. So with that being said, I would like to say for Kamal, for Dr. Fran, for Stacy and myself, Rob C., we are signing off. We'll see you next Freaky Friday for the Unveiling His and Hers Truths, y'all.
Peace.